Okay, back with you on the Bronx Buzz. I'm really excited about this. I am not aware, now maybe it's happened, that this person has been on television over the past couple of months, but this is our first chance to say hello again to former Congress member Jamaal Bowman. Nice to have you with us, sir.
What's up, Gary? Good to be with you, man. Thanks for having me.
Before I mentioned that you have a children's book, and we're going to talk about that. I'd love to just check in. So you lost the election. There's no two ways about that. Regrets or anything else, or at this point, I mean, now here we are in February. You just leave it go and move on.
Yeah, man. Listen. I'm completely grateful for having the opportunity and experience to serve in Congress. Very grateful to all of the constituents who supported me from the very beginning and all the way through. Listen, you win some, you lose some. You keep it moving, you learn from it, and you move forward. And I'm just excited to be back in New York, back in Yonkers, back in the Bronx, and back in education. I'm doing a lot of education work, so I'm very excited about all of that.
I got one more question about it. What did you learn? What do you take? I mean, being there, being a Congress member, that's a pretty special spot to be. Walking into, the United States Congress, walking into the House of Representatives as your work. What do you take from it? What did you learn from it that you bring to the next part of your life?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, to that point, it's a tremendous honor. I mean, we have 330 million people in the country, and only 535 get to serve in Congress at any given moment. 100 in the Senate, 435 in the House, and so the honor of it is incredible. First and foremost. Secondly, the process of how a bill becomes law. It makes you think of those old cartoons from when we were kids, but like how a bill becomes law, it's an arduous process, man, and it takes a lot of conversations, a lot of mobilizing, a lot of lobbying, working with community, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a tough process. And how it's decided how money is appropriated to communities, and learning why certain communities get a lot more than others is something that I learned that I will definitely take back. And the last thing is, big money in politics, man. We see it happening right now. If you're wealthy and you have wealthy friends, you can influence a lot of what happens in Washington. And we need to stop that, because working class people are really hurting right now as a result. And so all of that, man, I'm taking all of that back with me to bringing all that back with me to New York.
All right, I'm the king of the segues here, and obviously I've never served in Congress, but I've moderated 96 political debates in the Bronx, and my other TV show, Bronx Talk, is known as the political thing in the Bronx and all that. And I founded the Bronx Music Podcast because I believe that it's arts and culture, because all those political solutions are tied up. I'm not saying they can't work, but they're tied up, and you just expressed that. So I'm turning to some other things, building up our cultures, building up our arts, and for me, it's arts and music. I'm guessing a similar process goes through your head when you say, okay, I'm going to write a children's book to influence, use my art, use my creativity to get into the minds to build a better future. Do I get that right?
100% correct. I mean, the arts are the essence of life, in my opinion, and creativity is the essence of life. And so, the art and culture of hip hop was very influential for me as a kid growing up in New York City. It was very influential, and a tool that I used often as an educator, first as a teacher, then school counselor, then middle school principal. And it's a space where we explore and express deep ideas as well as deep emotions that sometimes cannot be expressed through the political arena, or sometimes you don't even have the words for it, and you just need to draw it or sing it or rap it or act it out. And so with you 100%, support you 100% in that endeavor. And for me, yes, writing a children's book is all about that, but it's also about just encouraging a love of creativity, encouraging a love of learning, and encouraging a love of literacy and you could be anything you want to be, which is the purpose of the
Had
book.
you written any children's book? Now, of course, you were a
No.
school educator and principal, and you had never written a book before. Did you sit down and say, hey, now I'm going to write a book? Or did it all of a sudden kind of, you were dreaming one night and then you woke up and you started scribbling it and you said, well, I think I have a book?
So little bit of both. One day I just kind of came to me that I wanted to write a few things down just about who I am, my bio, and my experiences. And so I just started writing. And as I was writing, I'm like, this is like pretty cool. This is something I would want to share, with young people, with kids. And I kind of just left it on the shelf. I didn't do anything with it.
And this was after you had served in Congress, or
this was post the election,
post the
election, yeah. So it was like a reflection of all the stuff, and so I put it on the shelf, which was a Google Doc, and I didn't touch it. And then I was contacted by this amazing communications person and illustrator, Kaylin McBride, who says she's interested in writing a children's book, and she had already done the visuals for it. For me, I was like, what? Really? Let me see it.
Did she know what you were writing about, or it was
no? She had no idea.
Like Elton John and Bernie Taupin, where one guy writes the lyrics and all of a sudden the other guy.
She had no idea, and so she sends me these incredible visuals with some words actually written in the book, like a story. I said, by the way, I actually wrote something down. Let me send it to you to see if it works and makes sense. I sent it to her and she was like, this is perfect. And so we went back and forth a few iterations like artists do. And we produced the book, Peace and Love.
Congratulations. Anderson has the cover. It's called Peace and Love. That's pretty subtle. Peace and Love, dedicated to inspiring a generation that dreams of a world filled with kindness and compassion. Tell me about the concept of peace and love.
Yeah, it's funny. Throughout my time in Congress, when you're an elected official, you give a whole bunch of speeches and you have press conferences and you're always talking. Like, to me, we talk way too much as elected officials. But anyway, I got into this habit, and I don't even know where it came from, of like beginning and or ending every speech with the words peace and love. Like, peace and love is Congressman Jamaal Bowman here is kind of my thing. And so, it's going back to hip hop, going back to growing up in New York City, going back to growing up in New York City during some tough times. We would greet each other with peace, not always peace and love, but we would greet each other with peace. We would end conversations with peace, and just to make sure we kept everything about peace. And so that kind of became a catchphrase, but it also aligns with, like my policy positions, right? So I'm really against, forever wars, and I'm really looking for I'm always looking for diplomatic solutions to our foreign policy. Really fighting against gun violence in our communities, right? So we want to push peace and love in that regard. Supporting education, supporting healthcare, loving thy neighbor as we love ourselves is something we always want to put out there.
Did you invent that idea?
No, I just repackaged it.
No, I'm saying it jokingly because these are obviously very fundamental things. Did you write for a specific age, or you just wrote it and then how did you view the?
Yeah, we wrote it. So what was on the shelf was something for like maybe a young adult audience. And then we just revised it to target kids in early childhood, because when you do research, you learn that early childhood, like birth to age 8, is like those are like the most important years of a child's development and education journey, because that's when like the higher order thinking skills are developed and executive functions are developed. So we're targeting kids in pre-K through 3.
Wow, that's excellent. And imagine, again, using that word, imagine getting a 3-year-old to get this idea that kindness and acceptance and, all those other things are part of their lives. Now, is the book published, self-published? Did you get a publisher?
It's a it's
whole process nowadays.
Yeah, it's a self-published book. So Kaylin and I, we have our own company, and it's self-published. We wanted to do it independently. I want to go back to the point you just made, because when you talk about a 3-year-old, really internalizing the concepts of empathy and compassion and peace and love, it's about that. And how often do they get to read about a congressman or an elected official and see visuals that represent the communities they come from, the family that they come from, and the halls of Congress. And, it's very personal for me, being the first person of color to represent New York 16 in U.S. history. So you're reading about, a historical figure in that way. And I'm very, very proud and humbled by that. And so for kids in the Bronx, it's amazing.
So I haven't seen the book. I mean, all I've done is seen the cover. So you did talk about your experiences in Washington and try to put it in a way that children will understand.
Absolutely. Everything that I learned as a kid from my mom, everything I learned from history, American history really teaches you to stand up for justice, stand up for freedom, stand up for equality. I mean, look at on the one hand, how different our country is now than it was in 1619. But then on the other hand,
it was 2 months ago, but that's
right, exactly. But then on the other hand, we see some trying to turn back the clock. And so the continued fight for justice and equality is critical. And so that's what the book captures.
All right. So now let's see. I see here the book is set to be available for pre-order on January 31st. That is coming.
Yes, it's available right now at peaceandlove.com.
Where is it?
Peaceandlove.com.
Peace.
Peace with an N, love, LOVE.com.
Have you thought about the next book yet?
Yes, I'm already thinking about it. Already started writing. Listen, we have a lot of stories to tell, man.
That's
and
great.
We're going to be working on a young adult version soon, which allows us to get deeper into the weeds.
Well, if anybody wanted to know what happens to a Congress member after they get voted out and what do they do, and if they're still young enough to be productive, this is what Jamaal Bowman has done. It's been a joy to reconnect with you, sir. And
yes, sir.
Good luck on the book. The book is Peace and Love. And let's get it out there, and let's get the concept in young people's heads so they can teach us a lot as they get older. How about that?
Absolutely. Thank you, Gary, so much, man. Good to see you again.
All right.
Yes.
Listen, that's great. Thank you so much. We're going to say good evening to everybody. If the curtain don't fall and the creek don't rise, we'll be back next week with more. Good night.